Welcome to the Via Stoica podcast. My name is Benny. I'm your host for today, and this is a Via Stoica quotes episode. We're going to look at a quote by Seneca on book 3 of on anger, and I'm taking it from this version on dialogues and essays. It's from the early parts of this book 3 and point 5, somewhere at the beginning. And this one is about on anger, right? Anger is one of those big topics that a lot of people are triggered by, right? When they hear about angry, and especially when they hear about being angry, and especially when they hear about Seneca's view on it, right? Seneca calls anger momentary madness, right? He said there's nothing good about being angry, and it is one of the pathe, right? It's a pathos, this bad emotion, if you will. And why is it a bad emotion? Because the Stoics say that this emotion prevents us from using reason and logic to look at the situation and make the right moral choice. That's why he calls it momentary madness, right? We've been given this divine spark, if you will, if you look at it from a more theological aspect, or just a little sliver of the logos, this pure reason and logic. And that's what we should be using. We should be examining a situation, see what's really happening, find its truth, and based on that, apply reason and logic and make the moral choice, like the best way possible. We are not sages, we are not perfect, but we can do and try our best. But these emotions, such as anger, they are bad because they prevent us from using our reason or logic and from being rational in the moment, and they take us away from that. Again, that's why Seneca calls it momentary madness, right? A lot of the times when we act angry, we don't think clearly, right? And obviously there are different degradations of angry, rage, and all of these things. Sometimes people say, yeah, I need to use my anger to do the right thing. But is that the right motivation to do the right thing? And many times anger comes as a secondary emotion from sadness, grief. Right? We feel sad about something, we feel an injustice, and I need to act. And that makes me angry because I've been done a wrong. But as we remember from the Stoics, none of the externals are bad or good. That's the label that we place on it, right? If something happened that I wish to avoid, that's a wrong for me. But if we look at it from, no, this has happened, and now I can still make the right moral choice, why should I be angry? Because nothing wrong has happened. I still have an opportunity to do the good thing, to do the best thing. Anyway, we're diving a little bit too deep into this already without even having mentioned the quote. But here we go. Right again, book 3 from his books on anger. And he goes like this. But the first essential is not to become angry. The second, to cease being angry. The third, to cure anger in others. Right? So he starts with the first points that are really directed to ourselves. The first essential is to cease, to not be angry, right? To not become angry. He says there's nothing good about being angry. We should really make sure that we don't become angry. How do we do this? This is something that a lot of people say, I don't really necessarily want to be angry. If you ask people, it's like, do you enjoy being angry? Is that really a state that you want to be in? Many people don't choose for it. It's something that happens, right? When an event happens to you, you get triggered, you get fired up, and you feel the rage building up. And when that spark starts, it is very, very difficult to stop. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of training. And the more you let anger overwhelm you, the more difficult it is to control it, right? The more difficult it is to prevent it from becoming rage. The light just switched off there. The more difficult it is to prevent it from becoming rage. But now let's look at how do we not become angry? And he builds on this a little bit, right? Seneca says we need to find out what it is that we're angry about. Why do we make these judgments that we feel that anger is essential, right? Why do we feel that this feeling, this emotion is warranted to deal with this situation? Why am I allowing myself to feel this way? We need to investigate the source. Again, this defeats all the other ideas that people have on Stoicism being against emotions, suppressing them. No, Seneca really invites us to investigate it, right? To see what the judgments are, because we got to remember, Stoicism looks at emotions as judgments based on the beliefs that we have, right? And he says, it must be tried before the jury of our own hearts and found guilty. He says, we've got to dive in deep and say, there's nothing really to be angry about here, because I see what has happened and I'm still be able to make the right choice. And if I've lost something and if I'm sad and grieving, that's not an attack on me. That's just fate. That's just how nature happens. That's just what happened around. And then the second part, he says, we need to cease to become angry. That's where we can apply that pause, right? When we feel that anger build up, let's just take a deep breath. Or let's go for a walk for an hour or 5 minutes, depending how long you need or how angry you started feeling. How much long and how do you do it? That's up to you for you to discover what works best for you. Maybe at the beginning of your journey, you need to take a longer pause. You need to take a longer time between the trigger and where you can feel calm. But as you start to practice, and I felt this from experience, that pause will become shorter and you can put it closer to that moment of trigger where you can instantly pause very fast and directly. But if we feel anger building up, pause. Tell yourself there's nothing good going to come from this. There's nothing good going to come from the fact that I'm going to react out of anger, fault on my reason and logic, and make a choice that I might regret later on. Why? Because I've let myself be swayed by this emotion. So if you feel that anger come up, remind yourself, I've got to pause. This is not what I want to be. This is not the state of mind that I want to be in. Find that pause, discover it. That's the beauty of life, the exploration of how we work, right? How we tick, and how we can put ourselves in the right frame of mind to make the right choice. And then the third thing that Seneca says is we can also then help others not to be angry, right? Cure also anger in others. That's what he says. He sees it as a kind of a disease that needs to be cured. And we can help them by setting the right example, by maybe taking them out of the moment when we see that other people are struggling with it, right? And this is something that you can do with good friends or with people around you. You've got to just kind of feel a little bit for how susceptible they are to these things. But it is our duty, once we've helped ourselves in it, to help cure other people, right, as well with their anger. Because could you imagine a world where people wouldn't act out of anger, wouldn't act out of those emotions? How much better it would be if we could just take a deep breath and see what's happening around us and make the right choice. So it's also our responsibility to help others deal with anger in a better way, in a more positive and healthy way for all of us. So those are the 3 steps, and I really implore people to read these essays, these books that Seneca wrote on anger. I'll read it one more time. The 3 steps that he said. He says, but since first essential is not to become angry, the second to cease being angry, and the third to cure also anger in others. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to the world around us. But for now, I want to thank you very much for your time. Remember to like and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, and leave us some comments. And if you're looking for help or support in dealing with anger, you can go to viastoica.com, sign up for a free consultation where we can talk about how we can help you with this subject and with many other subjects as well. So get in touch with us, but you can also go to viastoica.com for many more quotes or articles on how to practice Stoicism, how to use this and apply this in real life. But for now, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you have a really nice rest of the day and all the action that you're doing, and that you can, when you find yourself in those moments of anger, or when you feel it rising up, you can take a step back, pause, and see what's really going on, and then act out of calm and reason and logic instead of anger or any of these these bad emotions. And if you're looking for more examples of works on this, we have a long list with Stoic terms from Greek and trying to explain them with some practices. You can find them all on viastoica.com. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next one.